Horrific new developments in the Lori Vallow murder trial. A forensic pathologist revealed the cause of death for Vallow's children nearly 3 years after their remains were found buried on the property of Lori Vallow Daybell's fifth husband, Chad Daybell. Joining us now is NewsNation national security contributor Tracy Walder. She's also an FBI special agent and former CIA officer. Good morning, Tracy. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Mitch. Thank you for having me.
So this is difficult to talk about for anybody in general, especially those of us with kids, but just awful graphic testimony about the conditions of JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan. But I just kind of wonder, you can't get more guilty, can you? So when you hear the conditions of these children's bodies and it's awful, you know, what role does this play in the case?
Well, it was really difficult, obviously, to read these transcripts. My own daughter is the same age, actually, that JJ Vallow was. You know, it's interesting when you read this, what I really honed in on was the fact that there was duct tape around little JJ. And what that tells me is that clearly there was some kind of a struggle involved. He had bruising on his body, those kinds of things. This goes to really showing that this was not necessarily a spontaneous act. This was something that was really planned on the part of the accused here. And I think that's what's the most disturbing. It takes quite some time to die by suffocation. And this just goes to show the graphic thought that went behind these murders.
And also just the malice, right? I mean, when you hear about a young child that had died with duct tape over his mouth and died with a plastic bag over his head, it puts you there. You can almost, as awful as it is, visualize it. But I wonder if that works on the jury, do you think? Do you think that they will turn from those awful pictures and that awful description and look at Lori Vallow Daybell and say, you're guilty, you did this?
Personally, I think that they will. You know, there were reports that some of the jurors were taking copious notes. One of them was having difficulty looking at the pictures. I do think that this will absolutely sway jurors who, if not, you know, were swayed before. I also think, too, if we talk about Tylee and the condition of her body, the coroner couldn't even tell, you know, how she died because her body was so badly burned. And I do think that this is going to go a long way in really swaying members of a jury.
It's just awful. You know, we're showing smiling pictures of these kids. They're happy. At one point, they were healthy, and now they're not here with us anymore. And you just have to imagine that's got to be deeply impacting to anyone that sees it, especially a juror who has to be part of it. But again, I just kind of go back to how necessary was it? This vivid description of the conditions of the bodies. Was it necessary? Does this have to be done?
I completely understand where you're coming from. It's a hard thing to have to listen to. Obviously, I've seen autopsy pictures and those kinds of things throughout the courses of my investigation. I do think that it's something that needs to be done because I do see what the defense could possibly do is show that these deaths may have been accidental in some way, shape, or form. And I do think that this really shows beyond a shadow of the doubt that these were not accidental deaths. These were purposeful deaths. And I do think being this graphic and being this detailed does really show that the medical examiner and the police all did their jobs properly in terms of gathering and processing evidence. You don't want to leave any kind of doubt in the jury's minds. And really, this goes towards that.
In all of your time investigating crimes, how much have you dealt with decomposed bodies, and how tricky is it to figure out what happened to a body that is pretty badly decomposed?
You know, it's interesting. In terms of a decomposed body, the most difficult is actually when a body has been burned. That's when it becomes difficult to really determine a cause of death. And that's why I think they're having a hard time determining Tylee's cause of death, which is obviously terrible. In terms of decomposing, it's not that difficult. In the case of JJ, you know, he was found with the duct tape in the bag around his head, so it was pretty clear what he had died of. But no, with decomposing bodies, it's not all that difficult. It's when they're burned that becomes more difficult.
Well, yeah, I mean, burning is a chemical reaction, right? So it sort of changes the substance, whether that be skin, hair, what have you. Decomposition tells a story of its own, right, though? You can see what state a body is in, how long it's been there. You can tell when somebody was killed. You can see bruising from before and after. So, you know, can you tell me a little bit more about just decomp and the story that it tells from that regard?
That's actually an excellent question, Mitch. So, in terms of the decomposition, what that's really going to go towards is the time of death, and then that really calls into conflict this phone call that we heard earlier regarding Lori Vallow and her sister when she was in jail, and her sister was talking to her about how she could possibly be on the beach taking photos, celebrating her wedding, when her children, were in the ground, and Lori Vallow goes to say, well, that was months later. And that's key there. And that will be placed in comparison with their time of death. And what that will go to show is that Lori Vallow knew her children were no longer with them at that point. And I think that's going to be really key. And I would suspect they're going to juxtapose those two things against each other.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation in your cable lineup. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-based, unbiased coverage.